the EKS cluster.
Sorry, I just this thing saying that it's been recorded, and I couldn't hear the last part.
Yeah. So let's kick off a meeting formally, and then we can go through my topics.
Okay. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Today is October 17th. Thank you guys for joining. It doesn't look like there are any new members. It's just us three. So Patrick, I guess you can go ahead and kick us off. And I think it is recording, so we should be good now.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
So as you know, I'm working on enhancing the linter checking in Kubernetes, and I think I have everything ready to actually turn it on so that strict linting becomes mandatory for pull requests, for the code that is modified or added by a pull request. One of the recent changes was that I renamed the separate job that exists for that. So we now have pull Kubernetes linter strict for the checks that must not fail, and we have pull Kubernetes linter hints for things that where a developer may decide whether he wants to do something about those or not. And the next logical step would be to make pull Kubernetes linter strict required, which it's not at the moment. It's optional. It runs on all PRs, but it's not required to pass for a PR to be merged. And one of the open questions, I think I have a personal preference myself, is first of all, where should it run? Or actually, I need to reorder. Let's take a step back. Should it be a separate job, or should it be folded into pull Kubernetes verify? I had a Slack discussion with Ben on that, and he basically said we don't have any hard guidelines. It's on a case-by-case basis. And I think for this case, I prefer to have it as a separate PR, a separate pull job, because then if someone creates a PR and looks after 15 minutes, they get immediate feedback about the pressing issues that they really should be fixing. Whereas if it got folded into pull Kubernetes verify, they would have to wait for an hour before they get results.
An hour?
It's roughly an hour for. Well, no, wait. Pull Kubernetes verify might not be quite an hour, but it's certainly not fast. Let me see what I can find.
I thought that Tim Hawking improved a lot of these things with the Git. You remember that he changed the fine script to use the Git rs and all this magic.
Let me see. Let me see how
What? I think we have a 1 hour there.
Yeah. Options. Test duration.
Oh, look, Benjamin is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, look,
you
are
it's like,
right.
Yeah.
It
is almost an hour, 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at that because if we add this additional verify step to it, it will just become longer. And at one point we hit this 1 hour limit that we try to avoid. So yeah, that's another argument, not to put it into that one. So yeah, as I said, I prefer to keep it separate.
One question. There was another people trying to enable this boom vulnerability check thing. Is this related or is not related?
No, not related.
Okay, it's not using Golang CI lint.
Yeah. This is Golang CI lint with different configurations, where each configuration adds more checks that are enabled.
Could we run both the Golang CI lint runs in a separate job so that we get the cache?
We can't. Both the pull Kubernetes linter strict and pull Kubernetes linter hints must remain as separate pull requests, because if we merged it into one, and it fails. Say the hints fail. The strict configuration passes, but the hints fail. How do we communicate that in Brow? If we
Well,
if we
it's the same as the so you can run parts of verify. So that's how the verify job works. It
Yeah.
reports a bunch of individual steps. So you can
Yeah.
say, I want to run verify with just these two.
Yeah. So you can do it. You can do it technically, but then in Pro, when you look at the Pro check results, if we have a combined job for both, if it passes, users will not look into the log output to see whether one
I
of the
see.
hints has failed. We will never see the hints. That's my concern.
I don't really recommend having a default running job that is non-blocking that fails. Most people don't understand required versus not required. They just see jobs that report. So they think that they have to get everything to pass anyhow. And it's very confusing. But I understand the predicament.
We don't have a good way of providing hints. That was you remember the discussion about posting annotations. That would have solved that, because then it's visible in the diff that people should be looking at. But with Pro, we really don't have a good way to communicate that a job is optional but should be checked if it fails, and that's what we have right now. It's the pull Kubernetes linters hints fails. People see that it has failed. They are encouraged to look at the result, but not required. That's
in the past we've
we
usually had something like that, where you're opting into additional ones because you're doing something like you're really touching the build, and so you're going to run the same cross build, which we wouldn't normally run on a PR, or something like that. We haven't ever had something that runs all the time but isn't actually required. But I guess keeping it as a separate job is probably the best stopgap for now. So but in the future, we could consider merging in the different things that use the Golang CI lint cache and kind of just breaking verify into like two jobs.
The cache is relevant. So right now, both jobs take about 15 minutes. And if they were in the same job, my estimate is they would just be perhaps 20 minutes instead of half an hour combined CPU cycles, because the cache does help. But yeah, I think from a usability perspective, it makes sense to keep it separate. So I still stand with what I said. I think also the pull Kubernetes linter strict should be separate. Give users immediate feedback, because if they don't get that, they'll just keep it running, and then after an hour find out that they should have fixed something much earlier. That's just pure usability for people who forget about running these things locally, which of course they can. Yeah. So the other more practical argument is that if we keep it separate, the pull Kubernetes linter strict, then I just need to flip one boolean in that job, and I know that this job works. It's not going to break suddenly if I make some changes to put it in the pull Kubernetes verify, but that's more a practical aspect.
A little bit of a retread because of some context on this, but are we at a point where we can run the stricter lint only on like net new changes and just make it required?
That's what it's doing. So,
but if it's actually required, then it's fine to make it merge the two jobs and just let it fail. Like if we're going to make it required, right?
Yeah. Well, we could do that. My argument against that is that people get that feedback fairly late. So I think, I'm not sure whether you were already on the call, but pull Kubernetes verify currently runs for 50 minutes.
Sure, I mean, we could have one job that's the two lints and it's required, and it's merged the cache, and if it fails, you can't, right?
No, but the hints must remain optional. So I'm talking about, well, we have two jobs. One, the pull Kubernetes linter strict. That's the one that I want to make required, not the pull Kubernetes linter hints, because they can't be required, because they are things that may or may not be okay.
But the strict one could run at this with isn't there a third?
There is a third one that's for the existing code, and that still runs currently in pull Kubernetes verify.
Right, we can save some time by merging that with the strict one.
So we could save overall, I think it's the same, like I said, instead of 30 minutes compute cycle time, we might end up with 20. So we would save 10 perhaps.
So then it's only the hint job that isn't as efficient.
So the hint thing that must remain separate. We don't have
Yeah.
a choice. For the strict configuration for new code, we have a choice. And the question really is, what do we prefer? What's the better setup for users, for us, in terms of CPU cycles, in terms of usability?
I would make it a full. So renaming jobs is a little bit disruptive, but I think it'd be clear if we had like full Kubernetes. We used to have like, for example, we've had verify type check separate. We could have like full Kubernetes verify lint, and it runs like standard lint and strict lint. It's required, and it dedupes the Go cache.
Okay. We can do that. Yeah. Then it's a bit more efficient, and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, and keep the hints separate.
Do we want to make the names similar, or do we want to keep one called pull Kubernetes verify lint and the other pull Kubernetes linter hints, or do we want to call it pull Kubernetes? I'm wondering about how similar the names should be.
Yeah, I think the hint one is gonna get super long. We could call it like verify hints. I don't know. I would probably call it like linter hints, because that
I like the name.
This is a weird thing that we haven't done before, and I think that's fairly obvious what it does. But for the other ones, like all the required ones, they usually match.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Well, they're all kind of they're all kind of a pretty lossy encoding of what they're actually doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but that makes sense to me. That means I'll do one more PR before turning it to required, and that is this change that we just discussed, moving the internal one also into the strict one, or the existing code one and the strict one into the same job. Okay. Then if we keep it separate, I have one open question for you, Ben. It's about the issue raised in test infra pool 30,515 14. It's in the meeting notes. That is the question whether the EKS Pro cluster is okay for required jobs, merge blocking jobs.
Yeah, I think that we're pretty much there. We've had a little bit of stability issues with it. We just switched the node distro from Ubuntu to BottleRocket, and we're currently seeing things. So I think maybe we might want to give it a little bit more time. It would be good to check in with Marco and see how confident he is on that before we flip that switch. I think that's a place that we want to be. I think it's getting pretty mature, but we did just, like, I saw a message maybe yesterday where in SIG-Testing Biweekly about, it was early yesterday morning, or I guess maybe not so early Europe time, with Marco switching the distro. So it's looking good, but given that we had such a disruptive change in the name of stability, I think we might want to hold a little bit longer, but it's something that we want for sure.
So a little bit longer means 1 week to one month, or when should we raise that?
We have code freeze in 2 weeks.
I think 1 week is fine. I think we can see how it is this week, and we can decide before code freeze. We can have code freeze. Like, so the cluster's been relatively fine. It's certain jobs. We were seeing some things with the like C groups and kind, but we're already running. I think we're already running release. Anyhow, it's something we want to have. We want to announce this. It's important that we can run release blocking jobs on AWS. We need to be able to use those resources.
Why don't we wait for code free?
I think it's better to do it. Well, so we've already changed things. We're already running some jobs there. Something like the lint job, if we see a problem with it at code freeze, I mean, it's one field to switch which.
No, I don't have problems with the link. linter verifies all these jobs.
No,
But
no one's
I
going to
can't-
immediately start
I can't,
moving.
yeah. I
No,
can't.
no one's going to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There is a check apparently in test infra that blocking jobs can't run on that cluster. So unless we change that check,
Right.
I can't make the linter job run on the EKS cluster.
That's what we're talking about, Antonio. We're not talking about like immediately going and moving all of the things,
okay,
yeah.
EDU jobs or
okay.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't.
Okay.
We won't run like GCP EDUs from EKS. That's not efficient. But for things like unit tests that are totally local, we not, you know, it's not like something like switching to KUp's Oz. It's straightforward. We're just scheduling a prow pod. But right now we require that certain kinds of critical jobs like Kubernetes pre-submits must be on the community cluster, but that's the community GKE cluster. That check predates the AWS infrastructure, and we should be in a good enough place to start permitting critical jobs on the EKS cluster. It's pretty scaled up now. It's pretty mature, but we did just switch node distros, so I think we might want to give it a little bit of soak time to make sure that that change went well. Given that was yesterday, and in the name of stability, but I think we would want to do it sooner. It's kind of really changed things like the day of code freeze. And while we do have test freeze, we usually don't do major info changes later on. I don't know. We also have we have a related step in flight right now to move the ELEs to KOps instead of the cube-up bash. And it's kind of an open question when is okay to do that. I think we'll probably have some of that in flight, but without moving the like starting to spin up the replacement without moving it right away. So I think this is fine. I'm gonna comment on the PR and basically say like let's approve it, but let's actually merge it at least in like a few days or something whenever Marco thinks is confident in the state of the cluster that infra is providing for us.
Okay. Yeah, but that's all I had, and I actually need to run. My family is downstairs having dinner.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for that. Is there anything else that we want to discuss?
I don't think.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Well, see you.
Thanks all.
See you
Bye,
guys in a few weeks. Bye.